Okay, so right here is my stock 350 that has flat top pistons in it. This engine vibrates a little bit and has a hesitation. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the plugs and wires and then do a compression test. I'm going to go ahead and do the compression test because the plugs and wires are going to be out of it anyway, and I'm also kind of curious on how much compression this engine has. Also, the compression test will rule out like most major mechanical issues like in the valve train or whether or not the piston rings are worn out. This video is on how to diagnose a misfire and not how to do a compression test. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump into the compression test numbers. Okay, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and just do like about 6 rotations, or pretty much when the needle stops climbing. Okay, you've seen that, it's about 180. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them and write them all down, and then look at all my readings later on and talk about what I'm doing here, or why I'm doing it. Alright, I already have all my numbers written down, except for that one. I'm just waiting on the starter to cool off a little bit. And something that's I really hate headers, because number 6, I can't actually get the fitting in there. The header's in the way. You can barely get the spark plug in. So I don't know what to do about that at the moment. Okay, so in parts of my video it had 150 on here, but that's because I only did 3 rotations at first. But when I did 6, whenever I cranked it until it stopped climbing at about 6 rotations, it hit 180. Okay, so what I'm doing is in my last video I showed how I could put the water in here and set it on the lid for the glove box. And whenever the RPM sweeps past about 1500, it kind of shudders. It shakes the water, then smooths out. Also, when I was driving around today, you could tell the truck kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like a real big misfire, but it kind of hesitates a little bit whenever you step on it. And I know that's just a stock 350, but I mean, this is a pretty light truck. It probably weighs under 4,000 with 373 gears. It should be pretty peppy. Anyway, so I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that. I'm thinking it's ignition problem, but the reason why I went ahead and wanted to do the compression test is because I was just curious about how much compression it had and whether or not they're close to the same. It kind of rules out a lot of other problems. Like, that's what the compression test is really good for. It shows that, you know, if you had a burnt valve, a bent valve, you won't have compression. If you have worn out rings, the compression might be low. If the timing chain skipped a tooth and you have like at jump time, the compression will be really low. So it just kind of rules out a lot of things. Alright, so it's story time now. A long time ago I had a 305 in my first car, and we got it running. It would barely start, it would barely idle, it ran really, really rough, and we went through all kinds of stuff, chasing vacuum leaks, all this stuff, messing with the timing, adjusting the lifters, to everything. And after a long time, I finally said, let me just do a compression test on it. This was about 20 years ago. From my memory, it had about 75 on each cylinder, and when he took the motor apart, it had skipped one tooth on the timing chain, was real loose, and it had jump time. And what I'm saying is that compression test could rule out a lot of things, and sometimes maybe should be the first thing you do to the engine. It could save you a lot of time and trouble, even though it's kind of it's not the funnest thing to do. All right, back to my truck. These are the plugs in it. They were in it. Nothing too concerning. I know they look kind of dirty. This is the only one that's a little bit concerning. It's a little extra dirty. But that was a number 2 cylinder, and that one had good compression anyway. It had 180. The only one that I wasn't able to check was 6. Pretty normal. Why is this one extra dirty? I don't really know. All right, real fast, let me show everybody how to read plugs. Oh. 145 TS. That's how you read plugs, AC Delco. That's about the only thing you can really read on this plug as far as tuning is concerned. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but hear me out real quick. I mean, yeah, you can tell if it's burning oil, they'll be oily, okay? But whether or not you could actually tune your AFRs with this by reading plugs, I'm going to say not really, because if it's running rich while it's idling, isn't it going to foul it? If it's running rich when it's cruising with its primaries open, is it going to foul it? Or is it running rich when it's wide open? And if these plugs have been in there for 6 months and 500-600 miles, how do you really know what event did what? I think the only time you can read a plug is if, like, you're drag racing, you put a new set of plugs in there, do a pass, pull them out and read them, and then on your next pass you have to put new plugs probably. I'm not a big fan of this whole reading plugs. I think there's a lot of older guys that's been selling everybody snake oil for the last 30 years, talking about how, oh, I know what's wrong with it. I know that's, some people are not going to like me saying that, but that I'm entitled to my opinion. All right. One more reason I really hate headers is because if you try to use stock wires, you almost, like, especially the boots are never the right position. And notice my wires have burnt. There's a few burnt areas like that, right? Maybe this was I should have paid attention. Maybe this was the one that was on that plug, and maybe it was kind of halfway misfiring, and that's the reason why it's extra dirty. Okay. So the thing to do is I'm going to put new plugs and new wires and see if it fixes that kind of hesitation and that kind of whatever you want to call it, how it doesn't run very perfect. I went ahead and did my last one. That one I couldn't check. Okay, so even though I couldn't test number 6, that's fine. I did find something that looked suspicious. We have one of these plugs that was extra dirty, like it was misfiring, and then I have 2 wires. That one is burnt, and then that one is burnt as also. So I went ahead and replaced all my spark plugs with R45TS, which was the same thing, and I gapped them at about 45 thousandths because supposedly that's what HEI wants. So now I'm going to start the truck, do that same test I did with the water, and I'll show part of the old video versus what it does now. I'm going to sweep across for about 1,000 to 2,000 RPMs. Okay, that's about 1,200 and smooth. That's about 2,000. Okay, about 1,500, 1,700. Idle, you can expect it to be a little bit bumpy, but see, it smooths out. Past 2,000, it smooths out again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start the truck and do that same sweep from about 1,000 to 2,000 RPMs and see what the water does. That's idling at a pretty smooth 600 or 700. It's going about 1,000, about 1,200, 1,500 to 2,000. I'm going to do the same sweep again. Okay, it's idling. It idles a little rough, whatever. 2,000, about 1,700, 1,000, about 1,200, hold on, about 1,200, and as it goes up, it's smooth. Okay, so it looks like I fixed that issue. And what I think about that, that's kind of a lot of compression. That's supposed to just be, those are like 487 heads, they're like 76 cc chambers, and it has flat tops. Probably steel shim gaskets. I'm not sure. I could probably look at the edge later on. I didn't build it, but I think that's kind of a lot of compression. And I'm thinking I might have to run premium in it. It's a good thing I did that compression test because I think I'm going to have to put premium in it from now on. Don't forget to like and subscribe, the end.